Hello, everybody. Papu here. Want to tell you a few things about Atsiki, the way it was, the way I knew it when we were growing up in the 40s and 50s. Going there now is not the same, it's different. Uh, then the village was self sufficient, we had everything it needed. To start with, everybody, every family, for transportation, they had a donkey. Now, you can't find a donkey in Atsiki. You find a lot of pickup trucks, but not a donkey. At that time, most of the families, to plow the fields, they had a pair of oxen. Now, you don't find nothing of that. Now they have tractors. Many things changed. We had no paved streets. The streets were all mud. When it was raining, it was just mud all over. Now, all the streets are paved. And when it rains now, it floods the low levels of the village. Because the village is built on a hill, on the side of the hill. And when it rains, it just runs like a river down below. We had a town crier. There was an older man. He had a bell, and if you want to announce something to the villagers, you ask him, give him some money. He'll go around, ring the bell, announce it. As used to say, I remember, if somebody had a name day, if you have a name day over there, you don't have to invite people. People come over to issue Kronia Pola, and they don't have to notify you, they just show up. Now, if you don't have to have people coming over, you have to tell him the night before to go around and announce it. And he would say, "Ακούστε, ακούστε. Ο Κύριος Χατζόγλου δεν γιορτάζει, ούτε δέχεται επισκέψεις." Means he doesn't celebrate and he doesn't accept visitors. And he goes through the village and say all that. Now they have a loudspeakers all over the village. If anybody wants to do something, they will go and announce it from the loudspeakers. Let's see. We had two bricklayers. One was my father, he was the master one, and his cousin, Guarastos. Now, if you want to build something, you have to hire Albanians. There is no Atsiki that is a builder anymore, doing the labor work. We had a shoemaker. I think there were two of them, but the one that I know was my uncle Haralamos. And he was he had a Siraki, he had a couple of them, because that's the way you learn, apprentice. And the apprentice, one of them, stayed in Atsiki, and he was a vovo. A vovo is somebody who can't talk. And he passed away 2 years ago, so there's no shoemaker in Atsiki. We had a guy, he used to make the saddles for the donkeys. Christos, Lainas. I visited him a couple of times when I went there a few years ago. He passed away last year, and he's gone. There's nobody else to do that. But there is no donkeys anyway. We had one guy, he used to make the barrels. He was the barrel maker. He passed away, that stopped. Now what they do is for the grapes, some of them don't even crush them. They take them to a certain station, they crush them, they bottle them, and they give them bottled wines. we had a distillery, distilling and making ouzo. That's gone too. Nobody does that anymore. We had a tachydromo, a mailman. He used to come, I think it was once a week, from Mudra on a horse, and he has a bugle. As soon as he came into the village, he'll blow his bugle, and people will go down to the platea, and there he will read the names of the mail. And then, if you have any mail to send away, you give it to him, and he put the stamps on. But if the letter was going to America, I remember, you had to write the address in English, because nobody knew English, but they would come to my father, and he would copy over. He have the old envelope, and he'll copy it over the same way in English, and that's where they would send the letters. And in the late 40s and early 50s, we used to get a lot of, besides a check with money, most of the time we would get a package from America. Our uncles and aunts will send us packages with clothes and candies and food items. We would go pick it up, and if it was light, it was closed, so we didn't care. If it was heavy, we knew we had some candies in there, and we were all excited for the candies. What else do we have? We had one carpenter. He went to South Africa. He was my second cousin, Nikos Hadzoglu. We had a midwife. She was serving the village and some other villages around. A midwife. I don't think they have midwife anymore. We didn't have a doctor. We didn't have a nurse. If you have any problems, you had to go to Mirina, or go ask your yaya, like Sebaskani. He'll blame the Villa eye. We had a police station with 3 policemen. I remember one of them was so mean. He used to hate the kids, us. Every time we see him, we had to run away because he'll spank us. And we go home and say, he spanked us, so you must have did something wrong. We get more spanking. Right now, they don't have police in the village. It's in Mirina. If you have any problems, you have to call them up, and they'll come up if they feel like it. We had an agrofilaka. This man was a policeman for the fields, and he used to go out at night to see, because somebody will steal, somebody will do things on the fields. They don't have it anymore. We had no electricity in the village at all. No radios. There was 1 or 2 radios the people had that was operated with battery. The main one was in the platea, in the cafeño, and I remember all the older people used to gather over there at the time of the news. I remember it says, Ador Londino, the news of Europe came from London, and the news from Greece that came from Athena. As I said, we had no running water in the house. We had no heaters. We had mangali that we put charcoal in it in the winter. Mangali. We had one bus, a very small bus. At the beginning it was so old, it was still had to crank it with a crank to get it started. Then later on they had another one, a little bigger, but I think they had a electric operator started. There was no garbage collection. Actually, we had no garbage. There's no need for garbage. Everything was, the last thing, whatever we had, is the dog will eat everything, the cats will eat the fish, the bones, the pig will eat everything. So there was no garbage. Now, they have garbage collection. They have containers in the neighborhood, and you go throw the garbage. And from there, the whole area is full of plastic bags. No sewers. Now they have sewers. I don't know where they put them, but they don't treat them. I think they put them out in the fields. I don't know. Anyway, we didn't have any of those. The outhouse, they filled up. Father had to go, shovel out, bring it out in the fields. Stunk. We have no doctor, no nurse. Now they do have a permanent doctor over there. Before, there was nothing. No drugstore. If you have anything, you have to go in Miri. Now that's the only place there was a drugstore. We had no restaurants. There's no need for restaurants. Everybody ate home. Now there is one restaurant. It's open in the summer and I think also in the winter. There's one restaurant, Tropicana. What else do we had? We had a priest who was there all the time. We had a school. We had 3 teachers. Yeah, we had 3 teachers with school. There was one butcher, but he didn't slaughter every day. If you found a goat, an old goat, or whatever, that he could kill, he would go around the houses and ask, do you own any meat? And how much you want? And he found enough customers, then he slaughtered the animal and delivered it the same day. And you really have to cook it the same day or very early the next day because there was no refrigeration, there was nothing. And the way it was divided, whoever asked first accepted they're going to buy the meat, got the best meat. And started from the end, it went up to the neck. There was one guy had one bicycle, and he used to rent it out, and we go there and learn how to the bicycle. Oh, I fell down so many times out of that. We had a soccer team, Iraklis, and I was playing on it for a few years. We had a soccer field. It was not kept. It was full of rocks and holes, but it was there. We used to put, didn't have the goal posts over there. We used to put our shoes from the side or rocks. That's how we played. They had a Boy Scout. My uncle was the leader in the Boy Scout. They had the village had an office and a secretary there that kept records of what was happening, and they used to have elections for a president of the village. Now, there was one person he had more money. And he was also, if you need money, you go into him. He'll lend you money. We had one machine that made to make the alevri, to crush and make the flour. That was Spiridelis, my nuno. My godfather owned that, and then his son, who were cousins, second cousins. it was operated by a diesel engine. And you bring a sack of wheat in there, and he weighed it, and then he weighed it again to have the same weight. And then he'll take, I don't know, maybe 10%, I don't know what the price was, of the flour, he take it from himself. Now, you could go to, there was a mill or two, a windmill that did the same thing. All around the island, they had millers. Now, none of that. They all, they buy the alevri, the wheat, they just sell it. Limnos has a very good wheat, Mafro Atsiki it's called. It's very, very good. They sell that. I don't know what they use. They don't, nobody bakes at home anymore. Each neighborhood had a furno. That's where they baked the food, the bread, and usually it was done on Saturdays. And it was a multi-family because once they heat it up, it was easy to bake 2-3 different people to bake the bread. And the bread usually was its pieces like one, maybe be 6 loaves of bread, 1 loaf per day. And that was done on Saturdays. We had one that was, my grandfather had built it right next to the house. And on Saturday mornings, my mother would get up very early to start the process. And my father, on Fridays, used to go out in the mountains to bring the bushes, not vurla, can't remember what it's called, thimari, and they burn it, and they could tell if the oven was ready by what color the side of it was. It was, I can't remember what the color, if you see the color, they change in white or gray or whatever. And if it was that, then it was ready to go. They will take the ashes out, they mop it, and they put the loaf of bread in there. And at the end of the day, after baking everything, they would put slices of bread to make paximalia, to dry it overnight. And the other thing they used to do, put fava. That was delicious. Bake fava in a pot, in a clay pot. What else can I tell you about the thing that now everything has changed? You go over there and it's all modern. They have televisions. We had no telephones. Nobody had phones. The office had a phone, but there was the one that you have to crank it in order to work, and you have to yell out loud. Who could hear the secretary over there when he was calling the mudro? You could hear him all over the place. Yeah, the village had, let's see, 3-4 churches. They still have a priest. For a while they didn't have any priest. They have a priest. Yeah. That's the things I remember, and the things that really changed. Of course, it's much easier to live in the village now than then. That was a hard life then, especially for the women. Especially for the women. They had to make their own clothes. And they started at 5, get up at 5, especially in the winter. In the summer, they still get up at 5 and go out the fields. They would work in May, late April and early May, plant the cotton. Women would do that. And then a couple of weeks later, when the cotton come up, they have to go and take the weeds out. The women would do that. Then in June, it was time for the Naterisune to harvest the wheat. Yeah, they would do that. Then came tomatoes. Got tomatoes to make tomato paste for the winter. Yeah. Then later on, in September, got to pick up the cotton. That was a hard work. And then pull out the cotton plants. Oh. Anyway, I got you tired. Have a good time, everybody. Bye-bye.